Okay, here we go. Hi, my name is Rook Calderon, and I am a fourth year student at California State University, Northridge. I am double majoring in marketing and business systems and operations management, and today I'm going to be analyzing and critiquing two pieces of art. When I started working on this project, I scoured Los Angeles's art museum websites to see which installation I wanted to visit. I checked out the Broad, I checked out the Getty, I checked out the Getty Villa, and I checked out the LACMA. And I eventually landed on the Los Angeles County Museum of Modern Art. The reason being was because I saw on the website a display of one of the exhibits they had displaying artworks and paintings that stemmed directly from World War One. This piqued my interest, and I knew I had to go see it. So today I'm going to be talking about two pieces of art. The first of which is called Verdun, 1917, by Félix Edouard Vallotton, and the second one is called A Portrait of Isaku Yanihara by none other than Alberto Giacometti. Okay, starting on painting number one, Verdun by Félix Edouard Vallotton. This is an oil painting that depicts a scene from the Battle of Verdun, France, during the height of World War One. The Battle of Verdun took the lives of over 750,000 German and French soldiers over the course of nearly 1 year. World War One was known throughout the world as the war to end all wars because of the widespread destruction throughout Europe, Asia, Africa, and South America, which resulted in 40 million casualties. The cultural impact of the societies of these countries is undeniable and well documented. After the battle had finished, um, Felix was able to tour the front lines in 1917 and combined his own observations of the decimated landscapes with inspiration drawn from the dramatic aerial photographs that were frequently reproduced in the press. His oil painting tries to artistically recreate the chaos, the drama, and the horror of the battle. Something I find interesting about this painting is that which is being depicted is unspecific and more of a representation of the idea of the individual things that would be happening in a scene of battle just like this. So what do I mean by this? Well, you don't see any people or large explosions or guns or artillery or tanks or planes, all of which would be commonplace during this battle. Rather, you see the individual motifs and ideas of what was happening in the battle. This is something that I quite like the longer that I've actually looked at this painting. The striking geometric lines of the painting are very apparent and are the first thing that the viewer would notice about a piece like this. I associate the long geometric cones in this painting at first being some kind of spotlight, which would be accompanied with loud noises and sirens. Although the more that I look, I think it's probably a representative of the motif of the back and forth chaos that happened in the Battle of Verdun. Some rubble and rocks are getting kicked up near the center of the painting, which might be evident that the conical streaks actually are in fact artillery fire striking the ground. Either way, they are very striking and they draw the viewer into the scene that Valaton is trying to represent. On the left of the painting, there is a clear indication of raindrops falling from the sky, which would be something commonplace in the Western Front of World War One. The middle and bottom of the painting, and the bottom right of the painting, is set ablaze, and we can actually see black smoke bellowing up from the valley. Also, an interesting detail is we see white smoke. Now, what do we think that that white smoke might be? This is likely mustard or phosphorus gas, which was used as a potent weapon to asphyxiate the enemy during World War One. Now, this painting has lots and lots of color for a portrayal of such a gruesome battle. If you separate the color palette from the actual content of the painting, I would say the colors are akin to a children's playbook rather than the colors you would see on a battlefield. The blues, the greens, the reds, the oranges, and the whites and blacks are um, they make the content of the painting more digestible, especially because the painting does not show any of the horrors of the war, like death, decay, and suffering and fear that would have been happening on the battlefield. The light blue of the sky is also an interesting touch because most pictures from World War I depict a dark gray sky that seems to loom over the battlefield. The whole painting is just much lighter in contrast than any picture that you would actually find on the internet of the front lines. Not only is it lighter than expected for what is being portrayed, but the colors are also more bright and vivid. The colors really pop out on you, or they really pop out at you in this painting and stand alone in their own way. This is very cool to see because Valaton likes to play with the motifs and the color and show the battle in a unique way that is in direct contrast to the dark and muddy pictures of the war that you can find. Of course, I understand that all of the reference photos in World War I were only able to be produced in black and white, but this painting is still significantly more colorful than what you would expect the battle that lasted nearly a whole year and killed more than 750,000 people would look like. So this is an interesting touch. This painting seems to be universally illuminated. The skies are clear, and and the time of day is probably close to noon, judging by the minimal shadows. On the right of the painting seems to have some shadow on the hill, indicating some kind of cloud above, or the black spotlight or artillery fire may be casting the shadow below. In the bottom right, the fire is illuminating the forest and casting shadow behind the farther away trees. The left side of the painting is where the edge of the greenery meets the dead trees seems to be in the shade as well. The middle of the valley, in the middle of the painting, is illuminated as well and seems to be out in the open, where the sun's light source is not obscured. Moving on to the portrait of Isaku Yanihara by Alberto Giacometti. This painting by Alberto Giacometti depicts a friend and colleague of his, Isaku Yanihara. Between the 50s and 60s, Giacometti made over a dozen oil paintings of Yanihara. Their friendship uh, first blossomed in a Japanese magazine article where Yanihara actually interviewed Giacometti and got to talking about their interest in a multitude of topics, including their shared intrigue for existentialist philosophy. This painting is the second in the series that Giacometti expressed, "I am not attempting likeness, but resemblance." In the painting, Giacometti does something interesting and almost paints a picture frame on the outside of the painting near the edge of the piece. This could also be the edge of the room that Yanihara is posing in. However, I think this is a unique and interesting style choice by Giacometti. Aside from most of Yanihara's figure, the painting deliberately shows its brushstrokes that the paint and an interesting scene of Yanihara's surroundings, leading the viewer to make sense of the seemingly plain room. Yanihara's figure is also um, uses soft brushstrokes to color his blazer, but used finer black lines to detail his torso. The lines look more like they were done from a ballpoint pen than they were actually done by paint. After the preliminary light strokes were laid first. On the right of Yanihara, we can see something in the background that actually looks like a faint sketch of a chair in the scene. In this painting, Giacometti only uses a few colors: light gray, dark gray, medium gray, blue gray, black, and white. The scene Yanihari is pictured in is full of light gray and medium gray. The color leads the room, excuse me, the color leads us to believe that the room is desolate and empty. Yanihara's face is brushed in a slightly darker blue-gray color, with his features being lightly detailed with thin white strokes, while the rest of his body is outlined in black strokes. The lighting in this painting seems to be coming from one single lit light source, though we can't actually see the light source in its source um, directly. We can see the light that it casts. The light coming from the light is coming slightly from behind Yanihari, and we can see this because the light is cast, illuminating the room, and the light drapes over Yanihari's shoulders and onto his chest and even onto his hands. His hands are clasped in front of him and are also illuminated. The single light source makes us focus on Yanihara, and the lighting along with the color make this painting somber and blue, so to speak. The lighting from behind evokes a certain emotion and sets the tone for the painting. What I find interesting is based on my research, the relationship between Yanihara and Giacometti seems to be deep and full of camaraderie. Yet the lighting sets the tone for a darker, otherwise somber vibe. The juxtaposition is a nice touch, and makes the viewer think about it and its true intentions behind the lighting and the color. Throughout my research, I know um, that this is just Giacometti's style and really has nothing um, to do with uh, their actual relationship. Thank you very much for listening and making it to the end, and I hope you enjoyed and maybe you learned something as well.